Good morning, and thank you, Yvette. If I could ask us to please, in our own chosen way, reflect upon the tragedies of the recent past couple of days, and just bear them in mind, and again, in your personalized order of reflection, if we could, please. Thank you. Included in that list of tragedy are a 13 and 17-year-old in my hometown who were allegedly, and the proof is growing, gunned down by two fellow teenagers whom they knew. They believe gangs and drugs are involved. So my friends, we have a lot of work to do. Are we ready? Yes. Do we care? Yes. Do we care deeply? Yes. I believe we do. I believe we do, and I am always honored and flattered to be in the presence of so many progressive minds, be organization-based, or unionized labor-based, or just doing it in your individual way. It is just good to be with the collection of progressive minds. Because if there was ever an assignment that bore great weight for this nation, it is today's need for progressive policy. I look at what's happening and not happening on the Hill in Washington. I watch what's happening at state capitals across this great nation. The attempts to deny the right to vote take us back decades when we were fighting for far more input into our democracy than just those who owned land in our humble beginnings. And we know the blood, the sweat, and the tears that accompanied those journeys. We know the empowerment that came by people who were dealing with injustice. We know what it meant to have partners who believed in sharing that justice. Are we ready to go backward? No. I would hope not. I would hope not, but when I see some of the rationale out there, it makes me quite curious, and it is deeply hurtful to acknowledge some of the rhetoric that accompanies these latest schematics. If we don't allow everyone to have their voice in this democracy, we are all weakened in the process. We are all weakened. And when we look at this world at this given moment, it's a torturous thought to believe that and accept that we would leave it in worse stead than when we entered this world. Where is the moral compass? Where is the integrity? Where is the call for justice? Are we willing to stay silent along the perimeters of this great debate? You better believe our voice is needed now more than ever before. The impending verdicts at the election booths this November are going to be very telling. Telling to a world that has led the world through this nation with its democracy. This humble nation, infant yet in its age, still holds that beacon high. And the torch of liberty welcomes those who are searching for justice. And yet, we can internally develop this lethargic quality that doesn't push us to the max, that enables us to speak more freely as a society. Look at the injustice. You know, I love reading your title here in different ways. Justice works. Justice as a noun, justice as an adjective. There's different ways to read that banner behind me, but any way you read it, there's a call to action. There's a call to commitment. There's a call to responsibility. There's a call to hard work. And there's a call to success only if we're willing to invest. And invest we must. You know, I've said to people that we need to invest, and all of a sudden, you know, you become this flaming individual who doesn't get it. Well, I say cut where we can so that we invest where we must. You know, I'm not opposed to belt tightening. I'm not opposed to addressing the waste and the inefficiency and the fraud and the outmoded programs in the system. We'll get to it. But there is an order of investment that follows that belt-tightening exercise. And that order of investment starts with the very young and goes to the most senior amongst us. When I watch the deplorable statements made about the Affordable Care Act, when I saw what was happening in neighborhoods where people were willing to take information without subject to check and make that the mantra and make it the truth rather than exploring the facts and understanding that while we didn't hit perfection, we aimed for it. But we did realize progress. And the Affordable Care Act is a foundation upon which to build further progress. And so I say to our critics, if you don't like this legislation, then are you going to step up and say, my 26-year-old doesn't deserve to be on my policy? If you reject this foundation of Affordable Care Act, will you step up and say a pre-existing condition that might range from asthma in your child to emphysema in your grandparent, or the fact that you're a woman, using that gender bias as a pre-existing condition, are you willing to offer that up by getting rid of the Affordable Care Act? Are you willing to give up your annual checkups that come without any cost? Are you willing to give up the screenings? Are you willing to give up the closing of the loophole on your pharmaceuticals, on your prescription drugs? The list goes on and on about the progress that is part and parcel to the Affordable Care Act. And I am not going to stay quiet in the halls of government or in the neighborhoods that I represent and allow for people to transform an order of progress into some sort of demonization of a system that talks about Darwinism before it talks about the sense of community. You know, the last time any of us checked, the preamble to our Constitution reads, "We, the people." We, the people. My friends, our very first moments as a nation, as a government, as a society, spelled community. This self-centeredness, this go for the golden ring, the brass ring, this machoism that is embracing our society gets us no dividends. None. So let's go forward and commit to the group therapy that we require. Pre-K, early childhood. We know it works. We know it has value. We know it gives hope to our children. Why would we subject it to the actions of sequestration in its worst form that would deny 70,000 families that opportunity, if not as much as 100,000? Why would we deny nutritional programs to single-parent households? Two-thirds of those consuming food stamps are children. $16 billion slashed to that budget, like there wasn't a human face behind that number. Unacceptable. Are we willing to allow our children to go bed hungry? Are we willing to allow them to go to the classroom and try to learn on an empty stomach? So we know what the right action is, and the answer is progressive. The answer is justice, because justice works. Let's do it with justice. What about the cuts to education? The great equalizer, reaching to families and children who haven't had the opportunity to dream their noble dreams. We should encourage every child in our society, every neighborhood, to have our children dream, Dream nobly, dream boldly. What are those gifts given to you, poured into the vessel that you will utilize not only for your own personal enhancement, but for the strengthening of society? And that begins with the soundness of education. Why would we cut education at a time when we need that royal investment to be part of our tomorrow and the part of today, our present? Our children are our present along with our future. And higher ed. How long did it take for the debate to conclude until political embarrassment befell upon those opponents who were trying to double the interest rate on student loans? We finally got that done in the midnight hour and prevented children paying, young adults paying $1,000 more for their higher education potential. Unacceptable. So all of the work we need to do, I'm getting the card, I've got to go. Let me just close with this because it is the root of all evil. Money in the system. Money in the system. Corporations are people too, they say. We need to reform that decision that came from the highest court in the land that wants to pour special interest monies without any disclosure. We need to work on that agenda because if that system takes over our political process, we, my friends, will never know. We will never know the system as it was, and wealth will determine who is occupying every seat in Congress and in state legislative bodies across this land. It begins and ends with a progressive agenda. Let's do it. I am happy to see you're coming here in force. Let's make it happen. Justice works. Justice works. Thank you very much.